Bueno, estamos aquí esperando al presidente Donald Trump junto con la Comisión para la lucha contra el coronavirus. Voy a ir comentando, dando mi opinión cuando lo crea necesario. Lamentablemente no puedo ofrecer subtítulos automáticos al español, pero voy a ver qué puedo hacer una vez subido el video. Así que cuento con que sepan inglés, pero los comentarios van a estar en español, así que veamos qué dicen hoy.
It's been very short, but perhaps decreased. So we wish Governor Cuomo and all of the people in New York great, and New Jersey, your governor's doing a great job. He's doing a great job in New Jersey. They got hit very hard. I just want to say that the full power of the American government and American enterprise, it really is. This is an all-out military operation that we've waged, and especially over the last number of weeks. 50 states and territories have now been approved for major disaster declarations, which is very unusual. Thanks to the Army Corps of Engineers, New York City's Javits Center is now one of the largest hospitals in the United States. It's designated for treatment of the virus, patients and staffed by hundreds of federal medical personnel deployed from 2 Army hospital units, and they're doing a great job. This was something that we didn't expect to do, but they needed help in New York, and we sent federal troops. Not only troops, we also responders. People are now running Javits. Also, as you know, the USNS Comfort, which is in New York, there's been a lot of publicity about that coming in, and all that was not supposed to be for the virus at all under any circumstances. But it looks like more and more we're going to be using it for that. So we'll see. That was supposed to be for people having other medical problems. But it's very interesting because there are virtually no cars on the road, no motorcycles on the road, no anything on the road. Things that would normally be taken care of, we don't see anymore. So we haven't seen that in a long time. It's perhaps a positive. But the ship is ready, and if it has to, if we need it, for the virus, we will be using it for that. They'd prefer not, for obvious reasons, but if for any reason they need it, it's ready, willing and able. We have the best doctors, the best military leaders, and the best logistics professionals anywhere in the world, and we're orchestrating a massive federal response, unlike anything our country has ever seen or done. We've never done anything like this. And more we're using our medical people because of the fact that jurisdiction states, in particular New York, New Jersey, the Connecticut area, Long Island now has become a hotspot, part of New York. We're sending a lot of things, a lot of supplies, and now we're sending personnel where it's needed, military personnel. As of Tuesday, we'll have deployed over 3,000 military and public health professionals to New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and other parts of our country, 3,000.
El problema está más que nada en Nueva York. Lo que está haciendo Donald Trump es llevar personal militar, médico, más otros productos necesarios a Nueva York. Tengamos en cuenta lo que publiqué en el video anterior, por si no lo viste, de que en Nueva York hay un miedo muy real a una revuelta masiva. Ya está habiendo robos, saqueos en supermercados, así que es como un mensaje de calma a, por lo menos, los dueños de negocios como Louis Vuitton, Fendi y otros más.
Going or have gone to Illinois, and I mean, there's a governor, I hear him complaining all the time. Pritzker, I hear him, he's always complaining, and yet I just said, give me a list of a couple of the things we've done in Illinois, and we're building a 2,500 bed hospital in McCormick Place. That's the big convention center in Chicago, and we're helping to staff it, and probably will end up staffing it because he's not able to do what you're supposed to be able to do as a governor. He has not performed well. And we're also sending.
Donald Trump tiene un estilo de ir directo a la confrontación. Mientras otros usan rodeos y demás palabras, Donald Trump suele ir directo al grano. Tengan en cuenta que para que Donald Trump haya llegado a un 60% de aprobación, esto demuestra que es lo que estaba buscando la mayor parte de Estados Unidos. Y créanme que si no tuviera un yugo de la CNN encima, su aprobación sería aún mayor.
This of Washington State has returned 400 ventilators, which can now be deployed elsewhere in our country. So the state of Washington's done very well. They won't be needing some of the ventilators that have been sent, about 400, that's a lot. And we appreciate that he's able to give them back. He feels confident that they are in good shape for the coming weeks until we can declare a final victory. In the days ahead, America will endure the peak of this terrible pandemic. Our warriors in this life and death battle are the incredible doctors and nurses and healthcare workers on the front line of the fight. We pledge to them our eternal gratitude and everlasting support. They make all of us very proud. Our country is very proud. We have people, they love our country. The world loves our country, most of it. Probably all of it, they just don't say it. I can report today that the United States has now tested and gotten results of 1.67 million people. That's far more than any other country has been able to do. And you remember we inherited a broken system, so a lot of this has been developed. By Tuesday, 1,200 brand new rapid point-of-care testing kits has been produced by Abbott Laboratories, great company. And they'll be distributed to all of our public health labs. That's a 15-minute test, even less, as well as the Indian Health Service, the CDC, and the Strategic National Stockpile. So we're going to have 1,200, and on a weekly basis, we're making a lot more. They go very fast. They're very accurate tests. And other countries are wanting them, so at the right time, we'll be able to do that. But right now, we're getting them to all of ours. So we've done 1,670,000 tests. Think of that, 1,670,000 tests. And we have a great system now. We're working with the states in almost all instances, but we have a great system. And the other thing that we've bought a tremendous amount of is the hydroxychloroquine, which I think, as you know, it's a great malaria drug. It's worked unbelievably. It's a powerful drug on malaria. And there are signs that it works on this, some very strong signs. And in the meantime, it's been around a long time. It also works very powerfully on lupus. So there are some very strong, powerful signs, and we'll have to see, because, again, it's being tested now. This is a new thing that just happened to us, the invisible enemy, we call it. And
esta droga es algo muy especial para Donald Trump. En una cadena reciente de eventos lo culpan a él de la muerte de un hombre y la hospitalización de una mujer. Él dijo que esta droga, de muy difícil pronunciación, ya se usaba para la malaria y que iba a presionar, iba a impulsar que la FDA, quien regula y controla las drogas y medicamentos en Estados Unidos, aprobara más rápido esto. Lo que pasó fue que esta pareja confundió el nombre de la droga con un limpiador de peces, lo tomaron y se murieron. En un giro de eventos muy extraño en los últimos días, están pensando que esa mujer en realidad mató a su esposo, lo envenenó, tomó un poco para salvarse y después inventó esa historia de ignorancia para quedar fuera de la cárcel. Pero definitivamente uno no tiene medicina para la malaria en un limpiador para peces.
A first responder, a medical person going into hospitals, they say taking it before the fact is good, but what do you have to lose? They say take it. I'm not looking at it one way or the other, but we want to get out of this. If it does work, it would be a shame if we didn't do it early. But we have some very good signs. So that's hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin. And again, you have to go through your medical people, get the approval. But I've seen things that I sort of like. So what do I know? I'm not a doctor. But I have common sense. The FDA feels good about it. As you know, they've approved it. They gave it a rapid approval. And the reason, because it's been out there for a long time, and they know the side effects, and they also know the potential. So based on that, we have sent it throughout the country. We have it stockpiled, about 29 million doses. 29 million doses. So we have a lot of it. We hope it works. Driven by the goal of the brightest minds in science. We have the brightest minds in science, but we're driven by the goal of getting rid of this plague, getting rid of this scourge, getting rid of this virus. These brilliant minds are working on the most effective antiviral therapies and vaccines. We are working very, very hard. I have met many of the doctors that are doing it. These are doctors that are working so hard on vanquishing the virus. We strongly recommend staying at home, practicing vigorous hygiene and maintaining social distance, so you're just not going to catch it. It's the most effective weapon in this war. And I will tell you, we are committing we're committing to the people of our country like few administrations, few people, few professionals have ever committed before. They are working so hard. I see them before my eyes, exhausted. People that I'm dealing with every day, exhausted. They haven't left their offices. They haven't left their hospitals. We meet with them. We see them. And tremendous strides have been made. I think the vaccines, we'll have a report on that, but the vaccines, working together with other countries. We're also working with other countries, many other countries. And we all want everyone else to be first. We're very happy, but we are very far down the line on vaccines. We'll see how that all works. Johnson & Johnson's doing a great job, working very hard. A vaccine would be great. Therapy and therapeutics would be great. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, you may listen to what I said about the two drugs mentioned. My administration is rapidly implementing the largest emergency economic relief package in American history. You've seen what's been happening. Billions of dollars in small business loans have already been processed through Paycheck Protection Program.
Que la mención a los créditos no los distraiga de lo que hizo con Johnson & Johnson. Al mencionarlos, no solo está informando, sino también está poniendo una presión sobre la misma empresa, haciéndola responsable a la vez de cualquier error en esta vacuna.
Take care of our citizens. We're going to take care of our small businesses. We're going to take care of our large businesses, the airplane industry, the airline industry, a lot of great industries that we have that are in trouble because of what took place over the last short period of time. These are industries that were doing better, for the most part, doing better than ever. The airlines were doing great. Oil was doing great, oil and gas, and the energy industry was doing phenomenally well and got hit like nobody's ever been hit before. Just about like no industry's ever been hit before. There's never been anything like this. But we see light at the end of the tunnel. Things are happening. Things are happening. We're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll be very proud of the job we all did. Can never be happy when so many people are dying, but we're going to be very proud of the job we did to keep the death down to an absolute minimum, the least it could have happened with this terrible, terrible virus. In closing, I also want to note today is Palm Sunday and the beginning of Holy Week for Christians in America and all around the world. While we may be apart from one another, as you can see from our great churches, our great pastors and ministers are out there working very hard, but we may be apart. We can use this time to turn to reflection and prayer and our own personal relationship with God. I would ask that all Americans pray for the heroic doctors and nurses, for the truck drivers and grocery store workers, and for everyone fighting this battle. I had mentioned yesterday where I see the nurses rushing into hospitals, and they're putting on their outfits and they're putting on their masks and goggles in some cases. They're rushing into war. They're rushing into war. And I see people from apartment houses screaming and shouting and singing their praises. It's an incredible thing. They're warriors. These doctors and nurses, they're running into buildings and they're literally putting it on as the doors are opening. They're putting all their stuff in, running inside. And they're running inside to tremendous danger. Tremendous danger. But most of all, I'd like to ask for your prayers for the families who have lost loved ones. Ask God to comfort them in their hour of grief. It's a great hour of grief for our nation, for the world. This morning, I was talking 151. For 4 days, I said 151. 151 countries this morning. It's 182 countries. It jumped up a lot. So as of this morning, it's 182 countries are under attack from this monster. With the faith of our families and the spirit of our people and the grace of our God, we will endure, we will overcome, we will prevail. We have learned so much. We will be stronger than ever. And I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank the incredible professionals on the task force also. We had a big meeting today. We were calls all day long to so many different people. And I think our package to get everyone working when we're ready is really turning out to be successful. We may have to make it larger because it's been really successful. But all of that comes back to this country. We want to get them back. We want to get our people back to work. Everybody wants to be back. We want to open up our country as soon as possible. So with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Birx to say a few words. And she's got some charts to show you. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you can see from the hopeful signs in Italy and Spain, where we see finally new cases and deaths declining, it's giving us hope of what our future could be. We wanted to give you an update on where all of the states were. We're looking at this as states normalized per 100,000 citizens. It looks very similar to last week. We wanted to update you. We've been covering throughout the week the states that were moving on this map. You can see very clearly where New York is as a state, although this is very much still centered in the New York metro area. New Jersey is the orange line. The green line is Louisiana. That's followed by Massachusetts, and then Connecticut and Michigan are together in those lines towards the bottom. And then, of course, Washington, D.C. is now visible on this map, which was not visible before. And the yellow line towards the bottom is Washington State. Next slide, please. So this just summarizes all of the states we're tracking very closely at the county level. So we're tracing and tracking not only the epidemic at the state level, but understanding what's happening in county by county with new cases and, of course, also the deaths. We're also triangulating that with all of the laboratory data. And just to tell you how we're kind of doing that, for New York, which you can see at the top, their serology is now about 36% positive. They were in the 40s. So day over day, their percent positive is finally starting to decline. New Jersey's is increasing, however. They're now up to 42% of the specimens that come to the laboratory are positive. Louisiana, 25%, Massachusetts, 20%, Connecticut and Michigan, 20%, District of Columbia, 15%, Washington, 8%, and then Illinois, Colorado are at about 16%. Pennsylvania, which is also new to the graphic, is at about 12%. Next slide, please. So if we could go back one, I'm sorry, if we could go back one slide, one more. All of the states here, those are 38 of the states. 38 of our states have less than 50 cases per 100,000. They are testing. Consistent with that, their seropositivity rate for their laboratories are less than 5%. So this is how we're tracking and triangulating both case reporting, mortality or fatalities, and also triangulating that with the laboratory. The New York metro area, New Jersey, Louisiana, and a series, and Washington State have all tested at a rate greater than Italy and Spain. I know many of you were tracking that. Remember, many of us, we pushed out a lot of those assays at the beginning over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and I want to just thank Admiral Giroir and HHS, who's been working very closely to make sure that the states that were having an outbreak had access to all of their assays. Next slide, please. And then next one. So just to give you an idea of how we're looking at this, we look at cases every day. I want to just thank my data team. They spend all evening compiling data. I get it about 2 o'clock in the morning. And it looks at all of these metro areas by their granular counties, so we can see the counties that have new cases. That also helps us identify the hospitals and understand what hospitals will need ventilators or PPE. So this is the Detroit area. It's Oakland and Detroit, Wayne County. Next slide. We also track mortality. It gives us insight into how many clients are in the ICU and need care. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs both on cases and really appreciating the frontline healthcare workers that are really saving many people's lives. Next slide.
En este gráfico me parece algo demasiado complicado para una presentación que se está viendo en todo un país. Creo que la información es un poco más grave de lo que esperaban. Si alguien entiende esto, por favor, déjenme en los comentarios.
And you can see it's starting to stabilize. So this is how we've been tracking and tracing the epidemic as it moves through states and counties and communities. But as we started, we just wanted to note again, we do see hopeful signs in Spain and Italy. They have completed nearly 4 weeks of mitigation with people really doing social distancing, staying at home, ensuring they were washing their hands. If they have to go out to the grocery store, they're extraordinarily careful. They send one person from the family. And so we can really see that beginning to work, and we're very hopeful that over the next week, although we'll see rising number of cases of people who lose their lives to this illness, we're also hopeful to see a stabilization of cases across these large metro areas where the outbreak began several weeks ago. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Admiral, please.
Thanks, sir. What I thought I would do is update on the air bridge first, and then follow up on Dr. Bricks and how we're geographically aligning the supply chain. So the air bridge, we had 3 additional flights come in today, bringing 1 million gowns, 2.8 million N95 masks, 2.8 million surgical masks, 11.8 million gloves, 18.6 thousand gowns on 3 flights. And that material will be pushed out across the nation, delivered to hospitals, nursing homes across the country. Dr. Bricks went through the geography, and so over the last few days, I've been aligning the supply chain to those areas, and then reaching down into those areas and extracting data from those areas on PPE burn rates. So, for example, I spent the weekend talking to the Chief Operating Officer of Detroit, Hakeem Berry, for example, then talked to the leadership at Detroit Medical Center, Audrey Gregory, talked to the health officer in Oakland County, Michigan, and then also with the Chicago health officer, Dr. Allison Arwey. So reaching down to a level to understand their needs. So we're geographically aligning the supply chain, right? So you can see Dr. Bricks went through these counties, and we're getting down to the county level. And then aligning it by priorities of point of care. Public hospitals first, VA hospitals, private hospitals, nursing homes, first responders acute care. So over the coming days, we will be making a push to the geographic areas that Dr. Bricks mentioned, increasing the volume through the supply chain to those areas to give them weeks, not just days worth of supply. Primarily using our industry partners that we are directing, Cardinal, McKesson, Medline, Owen Minor, Henry Schein, Concordance Healthcare, directing them to put product to the hospital door, the nursing home door, the first responders, directly to them. We're also in the working to push out millions of doses of hydroxychloroquine. Right, we are working the distribution there to push the same thing to the same impacted areas, working it to get in the hospitals and to every pharmacy. And so my team is back there right now, working the arrangements to make that to the hospital front door and primarily to the local pharmacies, so doctor can write those prescriptions and you can get it prior to having to go to a hospital.
Great job. Thanks very much, Evan. Mike, please. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. My last appearance here, I mentioned that the President had given the Department of Veterans Affairs very specific instructions to be as aggressive as possible in response to the virus crisis, and not only to protect veterans, but also to help the American people. As many of you know, we have three primary missions at VA. One is to support veterans' health, the other is to provide veterans with benefits, and the third is memorial services. But we have a fourth mission, and that is to support the nation in times of national emergency, both in war and in peace. We provide a bridge from the federal government to the states and localities during these emergencies. As a result of that, I have ordered our veterans' hospitals to begin preparing more than 1,500 beds to make them available both at the ICU and the acute care level to the states and localities across the country. As a result of that, we have opened up approximately 100 beds in the metropolitan New York area, in Brooklyn, and in Manhattan, and East Orange, New Jersey. We will be informing the governor of Louisiana, John Bell Edwards, tomorrow that we will give him access to our VA Medical Center in Shreveport, Louisiana, to come to the aid of the people of the Pelican State. I've also given instructions to initiate the fourth mission in Michigan. We will be providing the people of Michigan access to hospital beds in both Ann Arbor and in Detroit. We've also provided a pharmaceutical trailer to be used by the governor of Michigan at Cobo Hall to support the citizens of Michigan who will be coming into that facility for medical care. We have also informed the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that we will be helping them in their efforts to protect their most vulnerable citizens in 2 of their nursing homes. So, in accord with the President's instructions, the 400,000 men and women of the Department of Veterans Affairs are in this fight. We are in the fight not only for the 9.5 million veterans who are part of our service, but we are in the fight for the people of the United States.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And you all have just heard from several members of the President's White House Coronavirus Task Force, and we are truly blessed to have the kind of leadership that we have, whether it be Admiral Polovchek, who is organizing the distribution of tens of millions of supplies, whether it be Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci, or analyzing the data literally hour by hour, or whether it be that whole of government approach that you stood up, Mr. President, calling on every agency of government, including the VA, HHS, and every agency. I hope the American people know, at this President's direction, we are sparing no expense. We are doing whatever it takes. We're marshaling the full resources of the federal government to respond to the challenges facing communities impacted today by the coronavirus, and making sure every community in America has the support. We've also, as the President said so many times, we've forged a seamless partnership with states around the country. As the President just reflected, by this Tuesday, with another 840 military medical personnel arriving in New York City, there will be some 3,000 Department of Defense and HHS personnel on the ground to supplement and to provide relief to healthcare workers, really at the epicenter of the coronavirus in the New York City area. And you just heard the VA.
Otra vez, no es casual. Ahora vemos al director de la Task Force encargada del coronavirus llevar otra vez este mensaje de va a haber más suplementos, va a haber más militares, va a haber más personal médico que va a relevar al que se cansó. Admiremos sus movimientos totalmente nerviosos sin su voz. La voz es una herramienta muy importante para un político.
Dr. Burke say that new cases were down slightly. In fact, we're seeing a trend of some leveling among all of the governors I spoke to today. And I know what the Secretary of the VA just announced about opening up VA facilities has been a priority for Governor Edwards, but I assured him we're going to continue to send resources and supplies and personnel to support their health care. In Michigan today, I spoke to both Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Mayor Mike Duggan of the city of Detroit. Governor Whitmer and I spoke about a new program in Detroit that will make hydrochloroquine available for 3,000 patients through the Henry Ford Hospital. They'll be tracking in a formal study the results of that. But at the President's urging, I assured her that we're more than prepared to make hydrochloroquine broadly available to pharmacies and doctors' offices across the Detroit area as they deem appropriate. I also heard from Mayor Mike Duggan, as I told you, Mr. President, and he was so grateful to the FDA, not only for approving the Henry Ford Hospital test that will be exploring hydrochloroquine, but also for the rapid approval of the 15-minute test. In fact, Mayor Duggan told me that he was able to use the 15-minute test this weekend to test 150 first responders who had been sidelined because they'd been exposed to the coronavirus. They all got the 15-minute tests. They're all back in the line of duty, and the mayor couldn't have been more grateful. In Illinois, I spoke with Governor J.B. Pritzker as well as Mayor Lori Lightfoot of Chicago. As you just heard, not only have we sent 600 ventilators to the state of Illinois, but I assured the governor, I assured the mayor that while the principal focus that we have in the next several days is on the rising cases in the greater New York City area and Louisiana, that Michigan and Illinois are in the forefront of our thinking, and at the President's direction, we're going to make sure the people of Illinois, people of Michigan have the resources, equipment, and support that they need. The governor did express great appreciation for the fact that our Army Corps of Engineers had constructed 500 beds at McCormick Place, and before the end of this week would construct another 2,500 beds for an overflow healthcare facility in Chicago. In fact, Mr. President, Mayor Lightfoot told me that the Army Corps was just outstanding in the job that they had been doing in constructing that extra bed space. As I close, let me just express, as the President did, our profound appreciation for Governor Kate Brown and Governor Jay Inslee. The state of Oregon and the state of Washington are leading by example. Oregon sent 140 ventilators to New York City. They looked at their circumstances and concluded that they could spare those at the point of the need. And because of the low and steady numbers in Washington State and in California, Governor Inslee today announced that they were sending 400 ventilators back to the strategic national stockpile, and those will be deployed at the point of the need. You know, not only are California and Washington State low and steady, but frankly, as I talk to governors and mayors today, I want to say to the American people that we are beginning to see the glimmers of progress. The experts will tell me not to jump to any conclusions, and I'm not. But like your president, I'm an optimistic person, and I'm hopeful. And the truth is, we're starting to see cases and, most importantly, losses and hospitalizations begin to stabilize. But make no mistake about it, I want to say to the American people, if that holds, if that's happening, it's because of what all of you are doing. It's because the American people are putting into practice the coronavirus guidelines for America. You're listening to your state and local officials. You're practicing social distancing. You're using drive-thrus instead of going into restaurants. And so on behalf of your president and all of us, working really at every level, I just want to say thank you, America. Thank you for responding. Thank you for putting other people's lives in the forefront of your thinking, putting it again over and above your own inconvenience and difficulty. Because of your efforts, there is, as the President just said, light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm absolutely convinced, with the continued cooperation, patience, persistence, and prayers of the American people, we'll get through this. And we'll get through this a lot sooner than we first thought it would take. Thank you.
Mike, very much. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President, we can start with the Admiral, if that's right for you, sir. I want to ask you about the air gap flights, sir. There were the 2 flights that came through. The 3 flights, where did they come from, sir?
They came from Asia.
Asia, okay. And then you were mentioning all these supplies being dropped off, the masks, the gowns, the hydrochloroquine. How are you guys making sure that there's not a run on these products? You know, you drop them off at Hospital A, and then people just don't rush and go grab every mask, gown. And then a question for you, sir, after that.
And so it's going to the loading dock, and there's an invoice. And so those people that are responsible for that loading dock and that invoice, they're going to make sure that there's not going to be a run on the
We're not
bank.
run on any of these. Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Mr. President, first, did you have a chance?
Con esta pregunta vamos a hacer una apuesta. ¿Cuánto a que los medios van a expandir el pánico con que esas cosas vienen de Asia y no con la respuesta que le dio ese tipo? Porque primero le hice una pregunta para preguntarle otra cosa, pero en realidad lo único que necesitaba era un título. Mañana lo veremos.
Every day we're building it up very rapidly and deploying it. But we do get orders from some of these states where we don't think they need it. We try and get it for them what they want anyway. Okay? Go ahead.
And then, you mentioned the Prime Minister off the top. Have you had a chance to speak to him today, sir?
I didn't speak to him, no. I did get a call from the ambassador. And, hey, it's a big move going to the hospital. It's a big thing. He's a great gentleman, so I just hope he's okay.
And then also, you mentioned the nurses, the doctors, the people that you see celebrating. The people that are gearing up and getting ready, the people that are applauding and celebrating him. Has there been any talk on any level whatsoever of some sort of either compensation fund or protection for nurses, doctors? Because there's been a lot of fear. There's been some people that said, I can't risk my family's livelihood. I could go back to the ER. Has there been any discussion?
Well, we're talking about it, and we're talking about doing something for them, but we're really looking at the conclusion. We don't want to focus on that now. They're incredible. They're not saying we're not doing it. They go in with good equipment, with great equipment, and with stuff that's not so good. And sometimes they catch it wearing the best stuff you can buy, brand new, the best stuff. This is a very tough enemy. But these are amazing people. No, we are talking about something, but we're really thinking about, let's get it finished first before we do that, please.
The Surgeon General this morning was talking about the coming week being among the hardest and saddest weeks of our lives. He was talking about this being our Pearl Harbor, our 9/11 moment. You all are talking about glimmers of hope and stabilization. How are the American people supposed to bridge those different descriptions that they're getting from this administration?
I don't think they're so different. I think we all know that we have to reach a certain point, and that point is going to be a horrific point in terms of death, but it's also a point at which things are going to start changing. We're getting very close to that level right now, and the next week and a half, 2 weeks are going to be, I think they're going to be very difficult. At the same time, we understand what they represent and what that time represents, and hopefully we can get this over with, because this is a very horrible thing for the world. And look, we're one country out of 182 now that have 182 countries. I have a A friend of mine said he didn't know we had so many countries in the world. 182 countries are now affected by this. So we want to get it over with. Okay? Please.
Those numbers, sir, could I just ask one follow-up
Yes.
on those numbers that you were talking about earlier? How does that change the projections that you were making earlier this week of 100 to 1,000
Well,
to 240?
we hope we can stay under those numbers. Those are numbers of death, and we hope we can stay under those numbers. That would be terrific, and as far under those numbers as possible. Now, if we did nothing, you know that number too. But the American people really stepped up. So did the professionals. They just really stepped up. So we're hoping to stay under those numbers. And that means the minimum and the maximum, but we're hoping to stay under the minimum number. You know what that number was?
Right, but do the numbers that you were talking about today, have they changed those projections?
I would say the answer is yes, but I would also say that we're not going to know really in terms of a final toll until we get out to the end. And we're probably, possibly not so far away. We're getting closer. But it's our goal to stay as far under that minimum number, the minimum number as possible. Okay? That's what we want to do. Go ahead.
Mr. President, as President of the United States, your words carry enormous weight in this country and around the world. And while you acknowledge you're not a physician, you do promote these medicines extensively here. How do you not go so far as to be giving medical advice? And you said yesterday you might take some of these medicines even though you don't have symptoms. Are you still planning to do that? And how do you calibrate being enthusiastic and not playing doctor?
Because I want people to live, and I'm seeing people dying. And I've seen people that are going to die without it. And you know the expression, when that's happening, they should do it. What really do we have to lose? We also have, this medicine's been tested for many years for malaria and for lupus, so it's been out there. So it's a very strong, powerful medicine, but it doesn't kill people. We have some very good results and some very good tests. You've seen the same test that I have. In France, they had a very good test. They're continuing. But we don't have time to go and say, gee, let's take a couple of years and test it out, and let's go and test with the test tubes and the laboratories. We don't have time. I'd love to do that. But we have people dying today. As we speak, there are people dying. If it works, that'd be great. If it doesn't work, we know for many years malaria, it's incredible what it's done for malaria. It's incredible what it's done for lupus, but it doesn't kill people. That's one of the things with a vaccine. When we have a vaccine, we have to do tests, because when you inject that vaccine, when they take whatever it is they have to take, we have to make sure it doesn't have a horrible impact, destroy somebody. Could. So we have to test it for a long period of time. This one, not so much, because it's been out there. Now, I'm not acting as a doctor. I'm saying do what you want, but there are some good signs. You've read the signs. I've read the signs. With the other one, there's some very good signs also. Different, going together works very well, but there may be an indication that if you have a problem with your heart, you shouldn't take what we call the Z-Pack. You shouldn't take it, and that's okay. But I would love to go to a laboratory and spend a couple of years testing something. We don't have time. We don't have 2 hours, because there are people dying right now. If it does help, great. If it doesn't help, we gave it a shot. We gave it a shot. That's the way I feel. You know, we passed something. Yeah, I would be very serious about taking it. We passed something that I'm very proud of. It's called Right to Try. For 45, 50 years they've been trying it. It makes so much sense. We have the greatest doctors and labs and lab technicians, greatest medicines, the greatest minds in the world. Everybody admits it. And when we're close to having something, or when we have something that tests incredibly well, you couldn't use it for years, because they would take years and years to test. So with the help of also Democrats, I got it bipartisan, but they've been trying to get this passed for decades. You know that. It's called Right to Try. So a person would be diagnosed terminally ill from something. And in the old days, meaning before a year ago, they would say, do you think I could try this this pill, this whatever, this medicine that's testing so well. No, you can't do that. You can't do that under no circumstances. They'd leave for Asia. They'd leave for Europe. They'd leave for, if they had money. If they had no money, they'd go home and die with no hope. We got a thing called right to try. If somebody's very ill, terminally ill, they're going to die. And it was very complex. It wasn't as easy as it sounds because there were huge liability problems. The drug companies didn't want to do it because they didn't want it on test results because these are very sick people, so they didn't want to bring down their test results. The insurance companies had tremendous problems. I got everybody in the room. I said, look, we'll sign a waiver. The person taking it will say, we're not going to sue. The family's not going to sue the drug company, not going to sue the insurance company, not going to sue the state, the city, or the federal government. Okay? It's called exculpation. And we got it done. It's a very simple agreement. I don't know why nobody ever thought of it, but they never thought of it. I did. And we got it done. Now we have right to try, which is actually, in my opinion, much more difficult than what we're talking about here. But if there's a medicine or something, a possible cure or something that's looking good, and somebody has something they're going to die or they're very sick, they take it. And you know, we've had some unbelievable results. Unbelievable results. And it also gives the people hope. Yes, please.
Mr. President, the doctors who are treating coronavirus patients, they have the medical expertise to determine whether or not they should prescribe hydroxychloroquine.
And many of them
And
do.
there are all
Acá lo vemos a Donald Trump hablándole directamente a un periodista, otra vez de vuelta en su estilo, pero me gustaría detenerme en la pregunta anterior, que fue más desarrollada. Al usar la palabra viejos tiempos o hace un año atrás, como lo dijo, lo que él está haciendo es posicionando la vieja era antes de la nueva. Las palabras son elegidas, afiladas como cuchillos y depende de en qué momento sea necesario, el político las usa. Para el caso de Donald Trump siempre le preguntan lo mismo de dos, tres, cuatro maneras distintas, por eso estoy hablando sobre una pregunta que es básicamente la misma que le hicieron antes combinada con la primera y no tiene sentido escucharla. En este punto ya las conferencias que da Donald Trump se vuelven una calcomanía. Y lo único que están buscando esos periodistas son títulos sensacionalistas. Pero quería detenerme en eso, que nada de lo que dice es casualidad y que realmente se acercan unos tiempos diferentes. A mí, personalmente, me parece bien que si estás enfermo terminalmente, puedas elegir probar una droga experimental. No como en países como Argentina, donde uno va por un resfriado y una malintencionada persona de una farmacéutica tiene el trato con el doctor y te da un remedio de muestra, entre comillas, que en realidad no es vallaspirina, sino es una droga contra el cáncer y están viendo si no se te achican los testículos con eso. Así que bueno, eso ha sido todo por hoy. Como les dije, si llegase a pasar algo más importante en esta reunión, nos enteraremos mañana.